marketing salesperson. I brought her along for support, and she can jump in here anytime that we need her. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the Lakeshore Sports Commission. Probably from the time I walked through the door here about 5 years ago, there have been discussions about forming a sports commission in Muskegon County. There is currently an organization called the Muskegon Sports Council, and that was developed some years ago to facilitate the development of the winter sports complex. And I think at that time they had a couple of other sports ideas that they were going to try to develop. But through the years, it kind of, it stuck to its original mission of developing the winter sports complex. And that is their current mission now, to keep that a self-sustaining organization, non-for-profit, that provides winter sports and entertainment for people in Muskegon County and out of the county. There's also a West Michigan Sports Commission. That's out of Grand Rapids, and they are funded entirely with revenues from the accommodations tax in Kent County, basically the Grand Rapids area. So they focus on events that will benefit the hotels and the businesses in Grand Rapids. They've worked with us on occasion when they need some overflow hotel rooms, but for the most part they stick to Grand Rapids. So I'm going to go through just a few slides here to kind of outline the idea that we have. We've had a lot of discussions with the various sports entities in the county, and we've made some progress already. So before we bring this to you for a vote on whether to approve or not a sports commission, I wanted to give you a little bit of an outline here. You have some pages in front of you that'll help. So the benefits of a sports commission are to increase collaboration among the organizations and events right holders. And these are groups that may hold the rights to a certain event, like a mud run, for instance, that may want to bring it to our area. If we can increase that collaboration with not only those rights holders and other organizations, but with the venues and non-for-profit organizations, we can bring more events into Muskegon County to have a positive impact on the economy here. It's also designed to heighten brand awareness, heighten the awareness of Muskegon County. As you know, for the past couple of years, we've had the Watch Muskegon campaign that's going along. It's really helping the county really gain a higher profile in the state of Michigan. So this would be another way to help the Lakeshore area and Muskegon County heighten awareness to sports planners and people that may participate in those sporting events. We'd be a repository for comprehensive venue and facility listings. Some time ago I told you about the sports venue inventory that we were working on. That is now complete. We've discovered over 200 different sports venues throughout Muskegon County. So we have them in a spreadsheet that really has all of the details for each of those sports venues. And finally, it will offer a unified marketing approach to our efforts to bring sporting events into Muskegon County. The next slide, of course, is about funding. Currently, what we're looking at for a potential sports commission would be member dues, managing events and fundraisers, corporate donations and grants. The second bullet there, partial funding of bid fees from Visit Muskegon. Currently, we do provide bid fees for some of the bowling events that come into the area. If you're familiar with the men's and women's state bowling tournaments, there's usually a bid fee for those that ranges anywhere from $2,000 up to about $10,000. We provide those fees to bring those events into the area. We usually split them with the local bowling association, and sometimes not the hotels, but the bowling centers also provide some funding for the bids to bring those events into the area. So we would continue to do that. Yes,
where does the rest of the money come from?
The money for the bid fees?
Yeah.
That comes from the CVB the bowling centers, and the,
So the CVB puts money into it?
we do, but we share, we
Does
partner.
does it come from county money or from?
ATAC money.
ATAC money,
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to know, thank you.
Yes, accommodations taxes provide that. The hotels are more than happy to provide that because it
Just wanted
provides
to-
rooms for them
That's what I wanted.
all
to know.
winter long, basically. The next slide is the mission. We've already developed this with the input of some of our local sports venues and other organizations. So the mission's to bring sporting events, tournaments, and demonstrations to Muskegon County with the express intent of stimulating the local economy and to provide a comprehensive resource for sports event planners and rights holders to coordinate events held within Muskegon County. So the strategies, number one there, we've completed. That's our sports venue. It took 6 months to do that, of concentrated effort, and it worked well. We have all of the venues. We can pretty confidently say we have all of the venues. I think there were 204 total that we found, working with the other local units of government to identify those venues. The next strategy is work with local sports contacts, educational institutions, charitable organizations, and groups and individuals to help bring events into the county. So that's your local champions, for lack of a better term, of the various sports in the area that have these connections to state associations, to Midwest associations, and even national associations, to be able to bring those sporting events to our county. And, you know, we may not necessarily get the US championships, but we might be able to get regional sporting events in here that would be 2 or 3 states, or even one single state sports events that we could attract here. The next one is work with local resources to prepare and respond to bids for regional, statewide, Midwest, and in some cases, national sports events. Those are the bowling bids that we prepare. We work with all of our tourism partners in the county to prepare those bids and to present those bids to the various associations whose business we're going after. The fourth one, developing that should be funding mechanism to offer bid fees to new and returning events held in Muskegon County. The example is the bowling. We would try to, through the Sports Commission, raise funding that could be put into a pot that we could use for bid fees for future events. The objective with the Sports Commission is not necessarily to bring back returning events, although that's great. You know, we like to have the events back year after year, but it's to search out new events and bring new money into the county. So that will be the main objective, but of course we will continue to go after the bowling bids. You know, you think bowling's a dying sport, but it's really not. I mean, there are lots of tournaments still held, and they bring in a lot of people into the area. And bowling's basically a sport that's held in the seasons that we're looking for business in, you know, the shoulder season and winter. So it's perfect for Muskegon County. And we have Brunswick here and Motive. And finally, to provide governmental assistance to cut through red tape in attracting sports events to Muskegon County. That's working with the various governmental units to try to make things work quickly and efficient. So the leadership, in our discussions, we'd like to have a board, of course, for the Sports Commission, and we would have 5 permanent seats on that board. There would be a Board of Commissioners liaison, so that would be one of you. The Greater Muskegon Athletic Association would have representation on the board, the Muskegon Area Sports Hall of Fame, the Muskegon Sports Team Owners Association, and that is a relatively new association of all the semi-pro teams that are here in Muskegon. So it's the Lumberjacks, the Lakehawks, the, the Risers, the football team, Ironmen, and then there's the outdoor football team is the
Blackhawks?
Mustangs, Muskegon Mustangs. So there's 5 or 6 sports team owners on that association and some of their representatives. So they would also have a permanent spot on the board. And then finally, the Muskegon County Hotel and Lodging Association. We work with them, of course, through ATAC, And it's very important to have a hotel representative on this sports commission board. So in addition to that, we'll have between 5 or 7 additional representatives that would be, again, champions in the area. So people that would, that are heavily involved in sports. So, we'd probably have someone from team sports and maybe someone from individual sporting events like golf. Well, golf, I guess, could be considered an individual or a team sport. But maybe, we'd have someone from tennis or one of the other kind of individual sports, team sports, and then some other niche sports potentially. So we'd have a good cross-section of sporting event people that could represent their sports and Muskegon County in our efforts to go out and attract new business here. So initially, the staffing for the Lakeshore Sports Commission would be employees of the CVB, namely Caitlin, and as events would come into the area, we would use our staff when necessary to help service those events. I'd be involved in it also to a certain extent. But mainly we want the Sports Commission Board to be the voice of sports here in Muskegon County and to give us direction on which type of events we should bid on to bring to Muskegon County. Because once we get them here, we can usually sell them. So we need eyes and ears out in the community that can say, hey, there's an event in 2018 that's looking for a home. Can we bring them here? Do we have the wherewithal to bring them here? So Caitlin, of course, reports to me at the CVB, and there'll be other staff, if need be, will be brought in to work on individual events. So the first steps are your approval, of course. After your approval, which should be coming up within the next week or so, we'll bring it before Community Development Board and then to full board. After that, presuming we do get approval, we'll move on to service mark the Lakeshore Sports Commission and develop a logo and then begin branding the commission itself. Identify a board of directors, so we will go out to those 5 permanent places on the board, or permanent appointments to the board, and identify those people, and then go out into the community and talk to others that could potentially be on the board. I think for the Board of Commissioners, you could designate someone at any time. I don't know how that works. We would develop ROI goals and measurement methods for the Sports Commission, develop a strategic plan with a comprehensive mission and well-articulated goals, and then continue our working relationship with Pure Michigan Sports, which is the state's sports market niche and local sports events organizers. What we want to happen with the Sports Commission eventually is to get it out from under the CVB kind of direction, so that it would be a standalone 501c3 organization with its own board. And at that time, the CVB would work very closely with the Sports Commission to further the objectives of the commission itself. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. First of all, does the county own any sports complexes?
Well, it depends on your definition of sports.
I
guess the fairgrounds could be considered an area for sports competition. Heritage Landing could be considered a place for sports competition.
You know what I mean. Do we have any football fields, baseball fields, soccer fields?
We do
Anything
not.
that would be considered sports?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Caitlin? I don't think we do.
In the inventory, we count the county parks, the wastewater facility, because they do actual racing sports as well as hunting sports. So there's that, and then the future cycling thing that we'll be discussing next month, but
Yes.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, there's a baseball field out at Pioneer.
Oh, you're good.
That's about all we have, though.
There's a couple of mud runs a year out at the fairground.
In,
Yes.
in that situation, you're trying to bring in people for this. Would they be in direct competition with the people, mud runs that we already have?
Oh, no, we work with them.
Okay.
At any chance we can, if there are new events that come into the area, like the mud runs, they usually contact us or we reach out to them to get hotel rooms, secure hotel room blocks, help them with promotion, those sorts of things. Yeah, we really would not compete with anybody. What our objective is, or the Sports Commission objective is to really kind of be the eyes and ears to say, you know, if somebody knows of a sporting event that could potentially happen in 2018 that's looking for a home, you know, let's bring it here and, you know, get those hotel rooms and additional economic impact from it.
Could the Sports Commission go on without the county being a part of it?
It could, yes.
Because I kind of wonder why we would want to be a part of that when we've got enough of our own on our plate. Why don't we just let the other people be involved, and if they want to hire us to go out for bids on different things for them, we'd be happy to do that.
Well, I think the reason that we are involved now is because nobody else wants to do it at this point. You know, they don't want to direct it at this point. But in the future, by developing a strong board, we hope that we can eventually move it out and for it to become an independent 501c3 organization. It has to have some direction at the beginning. And I think that many people that are even involved with it don't know how to run a sports commission. So the CVB will be there to give them guidance on how to get the organization formed, solicit board members, and then develop events and other fundraising mechanisms, be they grants or other events that the commission would be involved with, to make it a sustainable organization.
Will the ATAC group then increase what they pay the CVB to handle this work for them?
Not really, because it's part of our mission.
But it's not part of your job to take on extra responsibility.
Right. I guess what the CVB would be staff to the committee. So like the Friends of the Parks, the CVB.
But we own the parks.
We do.
It seems to me like you're kind of stepping over and helping. Not that I have a problem with us helping, but you're stepping over and taking over extra work in the community that's not our job.
Well,
Chair.
Commissioner say.
Mr. Lucas, look, I'd say I think this is a terrific program.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody has to take the lead role, and I think that we're in the prime spot to do that. You know, being that we have the jurisdiction of the county and all of the county residents at hand, to get everybody all on the same page and moving in the right direction, I think is a good thing, not only for the athletes, but more importantly, economic development and increasing tourism in the county. I mean, I think this is a big tool in the toolbox to do just that. So I commend you, and I'm looking forward to moving this thing forward.
Commissioner Lowe.
And I would agree. I would agree that this is a big part of Muskegon's continued change and economic development. This is huge for tourism. Sports is big money. I mean, you can talk about I can tell you about tournaments that are in Petoskey, Traverse City, Holland. I mean, just all over. Just in the sport I'm involved in alone, it's big money. Thousands of people flock to cities for a 4-day weekend, which is huge for just spending from outsiders. So I think it's a right step in the
Commissioner
direction.
Engel.
People in the granting community feel safer dealing with a governmental unit when they begin a program, and without our guidance, it's much more difficult to get the money to come in to make this happen.
I think the main thing at this point is really just the organization of the commission itself. Once that happens, I can see our role changing in the commission. But again, the commission, even when it becomes an independent event, it'll be very closely aligned with the CVB because of the simple fact that they need hotel rooms, they need offers on they need transportation. They need, you know, they can get offers at different restaurants and other retail outlets. You know, the CVB can help facilitate that to bring these, to encourage these events to choose Muskegon.
My concern is that right now the CVB works for the county. I mean, they're supposed to be promoting the county. When they step outside of that, the funding for that should come from outside. It shouldn't, you know.
Well, I still see this as promoting the county. The sports commission.
I see it as promoting the county too, but most of these places are not owned by the county. These are private businesses or private organizations that we're stepping in and helping them. But what about all the businesses that we're not stepping in and helping?
Commissioner Cross.
But, and I guess sort of to that note, maybe a little bit, sure, we're stepping in to help, but it's also bringing dollars into this county that may have not been here before. It's filling up our hotels. I know they're privately owned, but that is the object of tourism, right? I mean, to bring
Yes,
people
it
here.
is. Yes,
And
it
if
is.
you provide a facility to have an event, whether it's owned by the county, owned by the city, or owned by a public school, it's still bringing dollars into this community.
I agree.
And everybody benefits from
I
it.
agree, but that's why I think the ATAC funds that come from the hotels should pick up an extra percentage of what they pay the CVB.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Well, the object is to get more people heads and beds here. If you do that, the funding for CVB will go up automatically. It doesn't need to raise the rate. It just will pay more in terms of having beds filled.
Right, the toughest time we have in filling the beds in Muskegon County is, this shoulder season in the winter. The fall is becoming stronger for us. The hotels today at our accommodations tax meeting, today the hotels were saying they had a pretty strong September. October's even looking good for them too. So, we're making advances in the early fall shoulder season, I guess you could say. So we have to develop the late fall shoulder season into the winter and then the spring. The sports commission is, not the sports commission, but the people involved, some of the people involved in the future sports commission are already looking at a criterion for Muskegon in May. And this is an example of getting all these sports people in the same room, where they're going to bring an event here that is on a traveling circuit. It's a criterium, which is a bicycle race. It's a mile-long bicycle race. They do, you have the heavy hitters in the touring bicycle world that come and do these criteriums. And, they're not only races that bring in hundreds of different, of outside people or outside racers, athletes into the area, but it turns into a great community event too, where families can come down and watch the bicycle races, just like back in the 20s and 30s.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Just a quick comment. I noticed, I'm looking at the audience, and I don't see Len Piasecki here, and I know he's been pushing to have something like this for a number of years. I'm glad that it's finally coming here, but, I know that I'm listening to Commissioner Hughes, and I, for one, appreciate you getting out of you've already expanded your domain, quite a bit. I mean, if you look at, in the 5 years you've been here, some of the things you've done, pretty much everything, in my opinion anyway, and I know everybody agrees, pretty much everything you've done has worked out pretty well. Get your hands on this, and we'll have one more good thing going on. And the reason I'm mentioning Len Piasecki, because the Marsh Field baseball effort there, I mean, basically, these volunteers took a baseball field that was nothing and turned it into really a major enterprise here in our community. It's been a really good thing for kids. So get this going, step back a little bit.
Commissioner Hughes.
Again, sorry. And I agree, Bob is a great asset to Muskegon County. And I hate to see him divert his attention from Muskegon County to private industry, and I feel like that's what you're doing on county dollars.
I would disagree with that, Commissioner, because this is part of our mission to bring in new groups into the area. We can bring in return groups all the time, and we do, but new groups is new money into the area, and sports is a way to tap
I
into
agree,
that.
but we've got a lot of things that belong to the county. I think as much money as we put into that new dock over there, you should be dedicated to bringing more ships or bringing more things into that dock.
We're working on something for
instead
that,
of worrying
too.
about getting new baseball players.
Well,
I understand.
we're not going to decide anything today, so it's great to have this as information and great for discussion. I myself is really excited to see this coming together because, I agree with Commissioner Skolnick. What they done with Marsh Field is phenomenal, because I remember when it first started, and it was a nice crowd, and now you have to find parking. And I think that's probably gonna be one of the biggest issues coming up, because the place is packed constantly. But if we can do that with more sports and different sports and continuously keep making it happen, and I agree with Commissioner Loman, there's tournaments out there, there's, I mean, we just started the MAC thing, that's, I think gonna be big. I think, there's celebrity tournaments that are out there. There's a lot of good things that we can look at to bring into the area that can help fill these rooms and do it probably on a more constant basis. And I agree with Commissioner Holney, it's just gonna bring in more dollars that we can actually use for even more things to help, enhance the quality of life of Muskegon. But I guess we'll just save this for other discussions. If we have any other questions, send them to our administrator, Bob, and let's see this come to the committee. Commissioner?
All I was going to just add on the Walker Arena to what you were saying. I know you take a look at the Walker Arena from where it's at right now compared to, say, 3 years ago. There's a lot of renovations happening there. There's a renewed excitement in the building to include the annex, and also the number of events there has drastically increased. And I see it doing nothing but getting better and better, so.
It does. I think it all takes time, but they all developed it. The risers are, they started with a small following, and now it's huge enough to bring it to the arena, which is great. So everything takes a little time, but they all build and grow. Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, we'll end this portion of it and turn it back over to our administrator to go right into the report bill.
Thank you, Mr. Lukens. Yes, we'll set up now for the next topic, Port Authority legislation.